serious in our lives. But looking at the generation that we are in now, it looks to me as if family value has been lost. Because when you see a lot of things that are happening, if actually we have family values, we wouldn't get into all these problems that we are having today. Like somebody like myself, whatever I want to do, I want to look at the effect in my family. If such has a drastic effect in my family, I wouldn't do that because my family comes first than anything.
NTA International News.
Chairman Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream Sector meets President Buhari, debunks impeachment allegation of the president. Independent National Electoral Commission restates readiness for rerun senatorial election in Imo and Kogi states. And 39th National Council on Establishment ends in Minna, Niger State. Resolutions to be forwarded to Federal Executive Council for approval. Hello there, so good to have you join us in NTA International News. I am Oku Ekpeyong. We begin from Nigeria's State House, where the Chairman, Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream Sector, Kabiru Garba Marafa, has confirmed that there has never been any plan whatsoever to impeach President Muhammadu Buhari by the Senate. Speaking to newsmen after an audience with the President, Senator Marafa described reports to that effect as baseless and unfounded. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
Senator Kabiru Garba Marafa, who met President Muhammadu Buhari behind closed doors, told journalists that critical national issues were discussed in line with the president's disposition to wider consultations on the best way forward for Nigeria. He described media reports on the planned impeachment of the Nigerian leader as the figment of the writer's imagination that should be disregarded.
You know, in legislature, we crack a lot of jokes, some light, some medium, and some very heavy jokes. And I think I will only describe that as a very heavy joke. But nobody is contemplating that. It is not a possibility. It has never been done. And God willing, it will not happen in this assembly.
Senator Garba Marafa, who also commented on the reshufflement of heads of Senate standing committees by Senate President Bukola Saraki, said the move was in the best interest of unity, stability, and effective service delivery in the country.
In the last few days, the party has been on top of the situation, trying to reconcile their children. APC caucus in the Senate has been badly fragmented, and the APC wants to see an end to that. What you saw happened is just what I will describe as loyalty to the party.
So are we likely to see you withdrawing your cases in court?
Going to court is the most civilized thing you can do in any society, because you either go to court or you take the law into your hands. We should be seen to respect our own party. So if the party says withdraw the case, we withdraw. If the party says we go on, we will go on.
The lawmaker, who now chairs the Senate Standing Committee on Petroleum Downstream, said his discussions with President Muhammadu Buhari also centered on ways of sustaining ongoing reforms in the oil sector as well as stability in the Niger Delta for national growth and development.
What you are seeing in the Niger Delta is a responsibility for all Nigerians, and especially the people of the Niger Delta. I think they need to put on their thinking cap, because what is happening there is maybe 100 or 1,000 times more injurious to them than it is injurious to any other person. If they have grievances, we have a president that listens. We have a president that is very, very compassionate. We have a president that says, I don't want to steal anything yours. I don't want to do anything. I just want to manage what you have. I want to see you live good. They need to listen to the voice of reason. Come to the negotiating table, sit down. No war is won on the field. You have to come to the table. It starts from there and it ends there.
Senator Kabiru Garba Marafa represents Zamfara Central Senatorial District in the National Assembly. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed is holding talks with officials of the British Broadcasting Organisation, BBC, in London as part of efforts to reposition the Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, FRCN, and place it at par with its contemporaries around the world. Anthony Folsom reports.
The British Broadcasting Corporation in London is one of the foremost broadcasting outfits in the world. It has remained a credible source for news over the years. With its over 40 English and vernacular channels, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed says there is no better broadcasting organization like the BBC to partner with Radio Nigeria.
They have models that we can use that can improve our operations in FRCN. One thing which is quite unique and which we take away from BBC is the fact that despite being a public broadcaster, have been able to a large extent to discharge their function without any political bias. They are always mindful of the fact that they are sustained by taxpayers' money, so they run, very inclusive organization. But beyond that, you can see that BBC today is represented in virtually every country of the world. They have programs that appeal to different strata of society.
As part of the positive things to come, the minister held a series of meetings with critical officials in the various departments of the organization who briefed him on what has made BBC what it represents today. Lai Mohammed, apart from the discussions, inspected facilities at the BBC headquarters, where he was hosted by BBC's Focus on Africa anchor, Peter Okoche.
For instance, when we came to see on May 29, 2015, 14 out of 20 local governments in Borno State alone was under the sovereign authority of Boko Haram. Today, not one single local government is under their control. And all this we achieved under 1 year.
The minister was accompanied on the visit by the Director General, Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, Mansur Liman. In London, Anthony Folsom, NTA News.
And back in Nigeria, level 8 as entry point across board for all HND holders, restraining non-trade union professional association in collective bargaining in labor matters with government are some of the recommendations made at the 39th National Council on Establishment in Minna, Niger State. Adebola Brooksland-Sunday reports that the resolutions will be presented to the Federal Executive Council for approval.
It was a meeting that brought together all the heads of service of the 36 states and that of the Federal Capital Territory, including other decision makers, to deliberate on matters affecting civil service and public servants in the country. Declaring the meeting open on behalf of the Niger State Governor, his deputy, Ahmed Mohamed Ketso, urged the conference to come up with innovative way of restoring sanity, discipline, and professionalism in the civil service.
We need to pay attention to how we can restore to the service and respect and confidence that is used to enjoy.
Head of the Civil Service of the Federation and Chairman of the Council, Winifred Oyoita, says inadequate capacity and capability of civil servants, poor work ethics are some of the challenges identified by the Council. These, she says, are not insurmountable.
The civil service must therefore develop the capacity and competencies to adapt to positive developments in the global environment and to maintain its relevance and discharge its primary function of promoting growth and development of the nation.
Members of the Council resolved that today's civil service must not only be a change agent, but must also be able to institutionalize change in modern governance and societal development.
The National Council on Establishment is a consultative and advisory body of governments on establishment matters. The meeting was preceded by a two-day technical session of officials, permanent secretaries in charge of establishments and their directors. In Minna, Niger State, Adebola Brooksland-Sunday, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the federal government says it will ensure equity and fairness in infrastructural provision and distribution of social amenities for the socio-economic development of the entire country. To this end, the Ministry of Budget and National Planning is collaborating with the Federal Character Commission to achieve the objective. Musa Babaliu reports.
Collaborating in carrying out the mandate of the Commission to ensure equity and fairness in governance. The Constitution mandated the Federal Character Commission to advise the executive on equal distribution of appointments, employment, as well as developmental projects across the 36 states of the Federation.
But we cannot look at the spread of infrastructure without determining the budgetary provision being allocated to these areas, so that we exactly find out and then inform government, advise government as to where do we have lopsidedness.
Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udo Udoma, assured that the developmental plan of the present administration covers the entire country and no state or region will be marginalized.
Our thinking on the plan is that it should be possible to go from any major city to any other major city in Nigeria by a choice of road, rail, or air, whichever you decide to do. That is the level of integration we want to achieve.
The Federal Character Commission is also collaborating with National Bureau of Statistics to get accurate data on infrastructure and social amenities distribution in the country. In Abuja, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
The daunting challenges confronting the Nigerian Society of Engineering since its inauguration in 1958 resonated at the 2016 conferment of fellowship to distinguished members of the engineering profession. Science correspondent Kirian Umayo reports that issues that top the list include accreditation of engineering in higher institutions and the attainment of chaptered status.
It was a gathering of the highest echelon of engineering practitioners. The Board of Fellows, Council, and College of Fellows are unanimous on the need for renewed commitment to the promotion of engineering profession.
The Board of Fellows conceptualized the special dinner to serve as a suitable platform for interaction between and amongst engineers, as well as with other professionals.
Repositioning the Nigerian profession, engineering profession, in the official and public imagination is the concern of the Board of Fellows.
Representative of the Minister of Science and Technology and Director General of NIBRE, Professor Matawal, urged the engineers to key into the diversification program of the federal government through development of research results.
There's no reason why Nigerian engineers cannot take over refineries, learn what has been done, after all the theory is the same, and build new ones.
In a lecture, Professor Simon Itwange called for the strengthening of COREN, the regulatory body, to bring it up to speed of its enormous growing responsibilities. Deputy Governor of Borno State, Usman Maman, solicited the support of engineers in the reconstruction of parts of Borno State devastated by insurgency. Fellowship of the Nigerian Society of Engineers is a cap every engineer in Nigeria aspires to wear.
It's a great thing, and I thank God for this day and the award.
The first conference of Nigerian Society of Engineers was held in 1968. Kirian Umayo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Minister of Education Malam Adamu Adamu has assured stakeholders in the education sector of necessary assistance in developing the sector. Malam Adamu stated this in a meeting with some representatives of foreign universities in Abuja. The minister said initiatives that would add value to the sector are welcomed and that the ministry would support the investors' intention, which was in line with the change agenda of the present administration. Leader of the delegation, Dr. Christopher Imun Mullen, said it was alarming that Nigeria lost $9.1 billion to students' migration to Canada, United States of America, Ghana, and other countries yearly, adding that this capital flight could be saved. He commended the ministry for its pragmatic approach to issues relating to the nation's education sector. Turning to security now, ahead of Saturday's rerun senatorial elections in Imo and Kogi states, the Inspector General of Police, Ibrahim Idris, has directed the Commissioners of Police in the states to ensure proper coordination of security operations and adequate deployment of personnel for the conduct of a hitch-free and credible polls. In a statement by the Force Public Relations Officer, Don Awuna, the Inspector General of Police approved the deployment of additional police mobile force personnel as well as counter-terrorism units as conventional policemen from states contiguous to Imo and Kogi states to all identifiable flashpoints and other strategic locations within the senatorial districts where the rerun elections will take place. The IGP, while assuring the electorates and other law-abiding citizens in the states of adequate security and safety before, during, and after the election, warned that the full wrath of the law will fall on anyone found violating the Electoral Act or indulging in other acts capable of causing violence during the election. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, Oluwole Osaze Uzi, is set for Saturday senatorial and House of Assembly elections in Kogi and Imo States. Director of Publicity and Voter Education, Mr. Oluwole Osaze Uzi, disclosed this in Abuja while on NTA's flagship program, Good Morning Nigeria. Aisha Ubali reports.
Mr. Osaze Ozi, speaking on Good Morning Nigeria, said the issue of the card reader, which was one of the major challenges in the past elections, have been taken care of to allow a successful conduct of election. He added that INEC is equally going to adopt strategies that have worked in the past, not only in Imo and Kogi State, but in other states in which elections will be conducted, such as Ondo, Rivers, and Edo.
But I think just about all the obstacles to that, both physical and metaphorically speaking, have now been removed, so we're quite prepared. We've trained the staff, retrained the staff, and are deploying the staff and gotten assurances, both from the stakeholders at the state level and at the national level, that they're prepared for the elections that would have gone. The same thing with Kogi. Naturally, there are one or two people who are not so happy with the way things are, but we have on our own part prepared our staff, prepared personnel, and gotten all the materials, and quite prepared.
With enough voter education and engagement, INEC is optimistic that these elections will be credible and violent. This, however, is only achievable if the electorate play their part by exercising their franchise in a peaceful manner. In Abuja, Aisha Ubali, NTA News.
And the All Progressives Congress APC has promised to focus on infrastructural development, job creation, youth and women empowerment, prudent management of state resources, as well as labor-friendly environment, given the mandate. Edo State Governor Adams Oshiomhole, the party's governorship candidate Godwin Obaseki, and other party faithful made the promise at the APC rally in Edo State.
And consolidate the re-election of APC so that Godwin Obaseki shall continue from where I stopped. The reason we need continuity was that I started from 0 minus. Godwin will not fix has made a foundation. His own task is to focus on those areas that we could not focus on, because no one government can do it all.
My priority will be women empowerment. We will set up entrepreneurship programs for youth. Our focus is to make sure that we create another generation of youth that can employ themselves.
And ahead of the August 17 National Convention, the People's Democratic Party has constituted an 8-member countries committee on zoning arrangement for various offices to be contested for at the convention. The party's caretaker committee chairman, Senator Ahmed Makarfi, inaugurated the committee in Abuja. Abdullahi Garabenin-Kudu reports.
The People's Democratic Party has zoned its presidential candidate for 2019 election to the north, while its national chairman comes from the south. The 88-member committee, comprising elders of the party and other prominent members from the 36 states and the FCT, is to articulate a zoning arrangement for elective offices of the party. Senator Ahmed Makarfi tasked the members to ensure they open up the political landscape for all to contest.
We are going to print as many forms as there are aspirants for any one given position. It's not anointment. It's going to be election. And it will begin from the sale of form to all aspirants for any of the offices of the party.
It is a way of bringing personalities that will come to do the job judicious.
We will, by the end of the day, celebrate, and you are on a mission that will give us the opportunity to celebrate.
The governor of Ebonyi and Gombe states co-chair the committee, while former governor of Benue, Gabriel Suswan, will serve as secretary. Meanwhile, the caretaker committee has again extended its hand of reconciliation to Senator Ali Modu Sharif and other aggrieved members of the party.
If Terry comes in today, I tell you, go and say to him, this caretaker committee will accept the list of whoever he brings to join the National Convention Committee.
The zoning committee has 1 week to complete its assignment. Abdullahi Garba Kudu, NTA News.
We'll take a break now on NTA International News. More news after.
NTA International News. Africa as it is.
The development of local commodities through industrialists remains a catalyst for industrialization in Africa. Former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo gave a view at the sideline of the 23rd Annual General Meeting of the African Export Bank in Seychelles. Seun Ogunliyi reports.
The former president believes that without strong industries to create jobs and add value to raw materials, African countries continue the risk of remaining in shackled joblessness and poverty. He gave an example of how Nigeria moved from net importer of cement to net exporter of the commodity under his administration, and called for more collaboration between public institution and private sector for economic growth of the continent.
There must be this collaboration. There should be no silos, government in one silo, private sector in another silo. We must work together.
Harping on the need for African leaders to create more opportunities and incentives to indigenous business owners, the former president called on development banks in Africa to help promote African industrialists to global status.
We must be even-handed. We shouldn't. The opportunities that we have must be open to all those who want to take advantage of the opportunity.
Africa's experience with industrialization over the past 40 years has not been impressive, with sub-Saharan Africa's average share of manufacturing value added in GDP in 2010 being 10%, a figure which moved to 10.95% in 2014. From Seychelles, Seun Ogunluyi, NTA News.
And on the world of business, Justin Bemoyi is our guide.
Hello and welcome. This is Business News, and I am Justin Bemoyi. Now, the nation's currency, the Naira, on Thursday fell by 16 Naira 20 kobo at the interbank spot market, being the lowest depreciation since the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced a flexible exchange rate in June 2016. The Naira closed at 310 Naira 43 kobo against the US dollar. Currency dealers attributed the depreciation to scarcity of dollars, as the CBN, which has been the major supplier, could not intervene by selling some greenbacks at the interbank market since the week. And on the global scene, shares fell on Friday after soft U.S. corporate result pulled Street back from record highs. Also, European stocks and MSCI's leading global share index were both on course for their first consecutive daily losses in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Britain's decision to leave the EU has led to a dramatic deterioration in economic activity, not seen since the aftermath of the financial crisis.
But there's fear of recession in Britain because the manufacturing service sector and the services sector, which powers the British economy, they are contracting. What that simply means is that there is a slowdown in their growth.
Meanwhile, trading on the equity market closed at a negative note as all share index lost minus 1.21%. Now, a quick check at closing figures on the floor of the stock market. And that does it on Business News. Thanks for watching. Do stay tuned for the rest of the news.
Over now to Chinwizu with stories trending outside Nigeria.
Gambian President Yahya Jammeh has assented a bill prohibiting child marriage earlier passed by Parliament. Reports say it is now an offence punishable with 20 years imprisonment, and that any adult who learns about such a marriage proposal and fails to report it has committed an offence liable to 10 years in jail. In Kenya, a court in the city of Mombasa has found Faisal Mohammed guilty of trafficking ivory after he was found in possession of 413 pieces of ivory. He denied accusations that he was the leader of a poaching gang. 5 of his co-accused were found not guilty. Elsewhere, the Indian Air Force has confirmed that an Indian military plane with 29 people on board has gone missing over the bay. The Antonov 32 aircraft took off from Chennai and bound for Port Blair. Reports say surveillance planes and ships are looking for the missing aircraft, which was carrying service personnel to strategic islands near the Malacca Straits. And from Turkey, Foreign Minister Mevlut said the U.S. does not need to take long to extradite a U.S.-based businessman accused by Turkey of masterminding a failed coup. Fethullah Gulen had condemned the attempted coup and denied any involvement. Washington said Ankara must first provide clear evidence of Gulen's involvement, and lawyers have said any extradition process could take years. Uche Winzu, NTA News.
Nigerian National League calls for the composition of a full board as Russia vows to appeal against the banning of its athletes from the 2016 Rio Olympics. Details on Sports Update with Ayodeji Makinde.
The Nigerian National League Club Owners and Managers Association have resolved to put a hold on the commencement of the second round of the 2015.
Before we go, let's bring you up to date with some of our stories. We told you that Chairman, Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream Sector